Today, we're going to be going over the top raid Pokemon for each type. Now, for those of you that have watched the channel consistently, you know that I made this video just like 1 or 2 weeks ago, but my video definition was crap. I finally got my settings correct. It's going to be a lot better, and I got some new subs and a lot of views on my Miraidon soloing Samurott video. So for those of you that haven't seen this type of video before, we're going to get started. Now, of course, this list is going to be opinionated, but I have done probably thousands of raids of all different types, and I've used a bunch of different Pokemon, and I have it set pretty well on the teams that I like to use. So we're going to go over basically all 18 types, and we're going to start with normal. What is the best normal Pokemon to use? There is none. None of us use a normal Pokemon in a raid unless we're using Farigiraf, which is normal psychic. So we're just going to go right to fire then. And in my opinion, the best fire type Pokemon in the game for raids is Ceruledge. Before we continue, you can see that I have been breeding Ditto and Samurott to try to get a shiny Oshawott, and I'm 500 eggs in, and I still have nothing. I just feel like beating my head against the wall, but I'm going to keep trying. So, best fire type is definitely Ceruledge, specifically because of Swords Dance and Bitter Blade. You must ask for much more than that. You get a healing move, you get a boosting move, Shadow Claw is its ghost move, and Clear Smog is very, very important to have because it can reset the stats of the opposing Pokemon. If you're running into a Pokemon that uses Bulk Up or Swords Dance or whatever, Clear Smog is very important to have. So you boost with Swords Dance, you recover health with Bitter Blade. You can throw on a bunch of different items. You could throw on the Shell Bell if you want some extra health regain. If Bitter Blade doesn't take you to the top, you can put on Metronome if you're continually just using Bitter Blade. You can put on Charcoal. There are a bunch of different items to use, but in my opinion, Ceruledge is the best fire type to use for raids in the game. Now, for the water type, I believe there's only one Pokemon that's the best Pokemon in the game for the water type, and that is Azumarill with Water Terra type. I have 2 Azumarills built, one with a Fairy Terra type, one with a Water Terra type. Raids, if you can't tell, raids are probably my favorite thing in the game, and I do tons of them daily. I reset the 6-star raids. I just love them. And I don't like, somebody brought this up in the comment section of one of the Miraidon video. I don't like net play shenanigans in the sense that when you are trying to get in with a group, there's too much bad stuff that can happen. If you can just solo, especially 6-star raids by yourself, it's so helpful. So to get back to it, Azumarill, in my opinion, is the best water type Pokemon to use because you have Belly Drum, Liquidation, and Rain Dance. You give it the Shell Bell, and the Shell Bell is the item we're going to give most Pokemon in the raids because of the health regeneration. Belly Drum, Liquidation. You can use Belly Drum, then Liquidation with the Shell Bell. You can throw in a Rain Dance to get like 50% boost to your water moves, but it's really not that complicated. There might be a few other water Pokemon you guys can try. By the way, if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. Like I said, this isn't gospel. This is just my opinion on what's the best. Next, let's look at the electric type, and in my opinion, it's kind of a tie between 3. Miraidon, Iron Hands, with Electric Terra type, and Bellibolt. If I'm actually going to have to pick one that I consider the best, the one that's the most versatile, it's probably Bellibolt. But really, with what I've done with Miraidon lately, you can basically, maybe I'll make a video on this, you can basically solo 85% of the raids, unless you're at a disadvantageous type matchup like against ground, with Miraidon, Metal Sound, and Parabolic Charge. But you have Bellibolt, who has Acid Spray as its main boosting move in the sense that it's not boosting itself, but it's lowering the opponent's special defense. Acid Spray, Parabolic Charge, Terrastalize, you're going to be doing tons of damage, and Acid Spray is also a move that counts as an attack, so you get closer to Terrastalization every time you use it. I have Electric Terrain and Thunderbolt if you want to throw that down as well. I have an Iron Hands that's built with an Electric Terra type. Usually when you use a Belly Drum, you can use a Rain or a Drain Punch to regain enough health to not worry about putting a Shell Bell on it if you want to keep the booster energy on it. And then Thunder Punch. That's probably the biggest damage dealer in the game, is a Belly Drum, Thunder Punch, Iron Hands. And then of course Miraidon, who I've gone over recently in my soloing Samurott video. Same situation. Metal Sound, Parabolic Charge, Electric Drift. I actually usually have Calm Mind on this instead of Reflect. I was using it in a certain situation recently. But there you go. It's kind of a tie, but if I had to pick one for the electric type, it would definitely be Bellibolt. Grass type. My favorite, now this is the grass type Pokemon is one that I didn't start using until I actually learned how to use it in the Pikachu raid, and that is Contrary Lurantis. You can either get this Pokemon from a raid that has its special, its hidden ability, or you can use an ability patch. So Contrary Lurantis is amazing because every time you use Leaf Storm, it's boosting your special attack by 2 stages instead of lowering your special attack by 2 stages. So you're boosting yourself when you're using a very high damaging move. I have used Iron Leaves a few times, and that's fun because it's one of the only grass type Pokemon that's decently powerful that can learn Swords Dance. And Swords Dance Leaf Blade is fun to use, but I still got to go with Contrary Lurantis because of the boost that she gives herself with Leaf Storm. Set up a Sunny Day, and Solar Beam uses in 1 attack. Grass is not a type that I use very much, though. I usually use Electric if it's water if it's ground. So if you have any other grass type Pokemon that you guys use, please leave it in the comment section below. Ice type. The only Ice type Pokemon I use is Baxcalibur with an Ice Terra type. Somebody left a message in the comments a few weeks ago and said that they use an Abomasnow with an Ice Terra type. That seems very interesting. Maybe I'll have to give it a shot. But I just use Baxcalibur because it's one of the best Ice types in the game. It can learn Swords Dance, and it can learn Icicle Crash. Give it the Shell Bell. Really, there's not much to it. It's one of the most powerful. It has one of the highest attack stats in the game because, of course, it's a pseudo-legendary. So there's not much to it. That's the Ice type Pokemon that I use. Fighting! In my opinion, probably the best raid Pokemon in the entire game. Is Iron Hands. Anybody that doesn't use Iron Hands as a raid Pokemon, maybe you don't have it because you're a Scarlet player, please trade for one. It is the best. Belly Drum, Drain Punch, and you can give it the Booster Energy, which boosts its attack by 30%. This Pokemon can solo a bunch of raids that aren't even, that fighting isn't even strong against. So, not much to it. Belly Drum, Drain Punch. I put Thunder Punch on there, and then Close Combat. If you get into a situation where they're not doing a lot of damage, or you just Terrastalize and you want to finish them off, Close Combat can be very fun to use as well. Poison! There's 2 Pokemon I use mainly for poison, and that is, I'll use Iron Moth. Sometimes I actually have an Iron Moth with a Poison Terra type, but usually when I use Poison, it's Gengar, and Poison is not a type I use very much. But give Gengar the Poison Terra type. It's one of the few Pokemon that can learn Acid Spray and Nasty Plot, so not only does it lower special defense by 2 stages, it can boost your special attack by 2 stages, then you use Sludge Bomb. Not the most durable Pokemon in the game, but when I do use a poison type, it's definitely Gengar. Ground! Ground is pretty simple in my opinion because it's Garchomp with a Ground Terra type. Make sure you get to the point where you can Terrastalize with Garchomp if you're facing a Pokemon that is strong against Dragon, which happens quite frequently in raids. But I think Garchomp is the best ground Pokemon. I've seen people use Clodsire. I've seen people use a few different Pokemon, but when it comes to ground type, it's a Pokemon that can learn Swords Dance. Any Pokemon that can learn Swords Dance or Nasty Plot is most likely a Pokemon you're going to be using in a raid. Swords Dance, Earthquake. Sometimes if you need to get to that ground Terra type quickly, like I said, just start shooting off Earthquakes to begin with, then Terrastalize, and then use your Swords Dance. But when it comes to ground, I think Garchomp is the best. Next, we have the Flying type, and I'm going to be honest, Flying type Pokemon is not my forte. I rarely ever use a Flying type Pokemon in raids. I see a lot of people use Corviknight, and that's fine. Drill Peck is a good move, but when I have absolutely needed to use a Flying type, I've actually used Charizard and used Air Slash. And I actually don't even have the Terra type Flying on Charizard, but the very few times I do use a Flying type, I most likely use Charizard. Let's go back over here and let's look at the Psychic type. And one of my favorite to use is Espeon with Magic Bounce, but probably the best Psychic type Pokemon for raids in the game is a Spathra because specifically of Lumina Crash. You have a move that lowers special defense by 2 stages, harshly lowers special defense, and does damage. You frequently can use it over and over and get to your Terrastalization very quick. It can also learn Calm Mind and Psychic, but Lumina Crash, it's one of the better moves in the game, and obviously it's its signature move. I usually put Opportunist on it because if the Opposing raid Pokemon boosts a stat. Espathra is going to boost that stat as well. So probably Espathra is the best Psychic type in the game. I do use Magic Bounce Espeon, Shiny Espeon for fun every once in a while. Next is the Bug type. And if any of you actually use a Bug type in a raid, let me know. I never use the Bug type in a raid, which is why it was kind of shocking that Samurott was a Bug type, Bug Terra type. I don't think any of us use Bug types in raids. If you do, leave a comment in the comment section below. Next, we have Rock, and when I do use a Rock type Pokemon, it's usually Iron Thorns. I have the Rock Terra type on it. It's a Pokemon that can learn Swords Dance. Again, I'm probably maybe giving too much of a summary on these things. You guys know what the big issues are. You want a boosting move, and you want a super effective move, and you want that Terra type. So usually I will use Swords Dance, Rock Slide, and I'll put Stone Edge on it sometime. Don't use Rock type Pokemon very frequently, but when I do use Iron Thorns. Ghost. Now, depending on where you're at with Terra Shards and stuff like that, the best Ghost type Pokemon to use in the game, you could say, is Goldango, but I am not going to include him here because I have him as a Steel Terra type. So if I am going to use a Ghost type Pokemon, it's most likely going to be Annihilape. I don't want to switch his Goldango's Terra type back to Ghost because Steel is so useful, and Annihilape is great. It can't learn Swords Dance, but with Defiant, it boosts its attack by 2 stages whenever a negative effect is used on it. You can use Bulk Up, Screech, Rage Fist. It's pretty simple. Rage Fist keeps gaining damage every time you get hit, even when you die, which is why it was also a really boss Pokemon in the Samurott raid. So, and it's one of the only Pokemon I have that can actually terrestrialize Ghost. So I've been using it more and more over Goldango when I actually want to get to the Terra type. Dragon type. I really don't know of any better Pokemon to use this Dragon type Pokemon if you're not going to use the 2 pseudo legendaries. I don't have their Terra types Dragon, but usually I counter dragons with fairies. Very rarely do I use a dragon against a dragon. But if I did, I would probably use Miraidon with Dragon Pulse or Koraidon with Dragon Claw, being able to set up with Swords Dance and stuff like that. If you guys use different dragon type Pokemon, let me know in the comment section as well. Next, we have Dark. And there are 2 Pokemon that I consider probably tied for the 2 best raid Pokemon in the game when it comes to Dark. And I actually have to go over here to my breeding page because this is where my Dark type Pokemon is. And it is Kingambit. Kingambit I also have as a Steel Terra type, but it can learn Swords Dance. It can then learn Night Slash if you're looking for a crit, but then Kowtow Cleave. But the Pokemon that I usually use when I'm actually going against where I need a Dark Terra type is something I just changed because I have it built for competitive Pokemon now. It is actually Chi-Yu. In my opinion, Chi-Yu is one of the better raid Pokemon. Right now it has a Grass Terra type. In Pokemon Home, I'm going to send me a Chi-Yu from one of the other games that I've played, because usually Chi-Yu has a Dark Terra type. It can learn Nasty Plot, it can learn Dark Pulse. So if you're choosing between 2 Pokemon that you're going to use for Dark type, and again, the thing with Dark type Pokemon is them and Ghost are actually interchangeable. Ghost deals damage to Ghost and Psychic. Dark deals damage to Ghost and Psychic. So you could just say I'm going to use Annihilape over any of these Dark type Pokemon. And that's fine as well. But if I'm going to use a Dark type, it's usually either Kingambit or it's going to be Chi-Yu. Now let's go to Steel type. That is going to go right back to Goldango. Best Steel type Pokemon in the game, definitely for raids. Give it the Shell Bell, as you're going to want to give to most of these Pokemon. Give them the Shell Bell if I haven't mentioned that. Nasty Plot, Make It Rain. If you want to put Flash Cannon on there, if you don't want to lower your special attack as much, that's fine. Nasty Plot, Make It Rain, Metal Sound, like I said. Then we're going to go to Fairy, the last type we're going to cover, and there's 2 Pokemon here that I have as my best Fairy type Pokemon, and that would be Azumarill with the Fairy Terra type, as I stated, with the Shell Bell, Belly Drum, Play Rough, and then we're going to go look at Sylveon, who is best used when it has the Pixelate ability, and you can use Fake Tears, Calm Mind, and Hyper Voice with Pixelate. normal moves are boosted by 20% and become fairy type moves. So Hyper Beam and Hyper Voice are basically what you want to use there. If I haven't mentioned this earlier in the video, if I've been neglecting it, you want a Shell Bell on basically every Pokemon, okay? Unless they have moves like Bitter Blade or Parabolic Charge, that can regain health by themselves, or Giga Drain or something like that, you're going to want to put a Shell Bell on most of these Pokemon. One other thing to quickly mention that I haven't mentioned in this video is when it comes to stats and EVs in your raid Pokemon, it's very simple. You're always going to want to max out HP no matter what on all of your raid Pokemon, and then you're going to want to boost its either physical or special attack depending on what type of attacker the Pokemon is. For instance, Azumarill is a physical attacker, so you'll want to give it an Adamant Mint that boosts its attack and lowers its special attack, and you'd want to max out its attack. For the rest of the EVs, you can give it wherever you want. I usually give it to defense or special defense. Usually if you're using like protein or calcium or HP ups, you use 26 of one, 26 of the other, and then you'll give 1 to one of the other stats. So if it's a special attacker, guys, you're going to want to max out its special attack, HP, give it a Modest Mint. If it's a physical attacker, max out its attack, HP, give it an Adamant. It's that simple. Hopefully this video could enlighten a few of you and give you some help when it comes to raids. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, that helps out a ton, and stay tuned for more videos to come very soon.